Okay, so now we're going to go over processes because processes are very important. They are actionable, and that's what people want. They want clarity. They want to be able to act on something in a step by step fashion. This works for list tweets. List tweets are usually a process, right, for doing something, but processes are simple. The desired outcome of what people are trying to achieve relating to one of these topics and the steps to get there, right? It's as simple as that. I would not overcomplicate this. So, another thing is that not all discoveries imply processes, right? These are like my processes inside of my database are down here, and there aren't that many, but all of these have created this course, right? So the processes are what you sell, right? This entire course is just processes that I've been creating over time. We have the APAG copywriting framework. We have uh, my business model, intelligent imitation process, discovering your life's work, the epistemic method, book to brand content, idea to cross platform virality, and all of this stuff. And there's other processes in here, but they aren't exactly organized. But these are usually for the bottom of your long form content or the bottom of your newsletter, right? And so in this case, let's try to create one out of this, right? So in order to get experience, so let's look at this. We can name the process, or let's say the desired outcome is to start or is to gain enough experience to sell something, right? So what are the steps? Because this is based on learning that we've talked about up here. So what are the steps to learning something enough to actually understanding it? And now this should be based off of your what you know, because that's how you know whether or not you understand something enough to talk about it or sell it, right? Is the how. How are you going to explain this? And so the steps for gaining enough experience is to learn the principles. See, we've talked about this a lot, and you can see how processes start to kind of transfer over and can be used in many different use cases or positioned many different ways. I could teach freelancers how to learn when in essence it's going to be a product on how to gain enough experience to start selling something, right? Or I can teach content creators how to learn enough to feel confident in what they're saying online, right? Now, that may not justify a big price tag, but it could definitely be a lead magnet or some other kind of process or just an article, very helpful article. So learn the principles of what you want to talk about. Understand it more by immersing yourself in the environment. And this is what worked for me, right? This is my method for learning. Everyone else has different methods for learning, and this is how they came up with it. They're nobody special. Like, what's a process? I'm trying to think of one, but like there's the Eisenhower matrix. There's different processes where you see it and you're like, oh man, that guy's an expert. When in reality, they just created a process for people to follow. It gave them clarity and they got results because it got clarity. There's nothing special about processes. Don't limit yourself to, oh, I can't create this because I don't have any results yet. And it's like, don't promise the results and then you can create it. So understand it more by immersing yourself in the environment. Teach it to someone that is one step behind you, like a friend. And then write about it to come up with or to become aware of your blind spots. Offer free help to others, again, to uncover more blind spots. Test a low price consulting offer for it. And you can see how this stuff starts to expand over time, right? You don't You don't know exactly what the process is going to be until you start fleshing it out. I don't know exactly what the desired outcome is going to be until I write one, and then I start digging deeper, and then I come back and refine it. So gain enough experience to sell something, that's still about right. So now the process, what do I want to call it? And remember, we should have duplicated this before. I'm bad at that, but yeah, duplicate this before so you can copy paste. But now we're going to name the process, right? So from zero to from zero to $1, boom, we have a process. And now I could turn this into an article. I could turn it into a product. I could turn it into a lead magnet. You see what I'm saying here? And then all of this can be explained by this. This is the first part of the lead magnet where I'm presenting the problems, the objections, the benefits to overcoming it, persuading people to take action on this product, right? And change their behavior accordingly. Okay? So let's look at how I created other processes. So non-needy networking, that's one. Book to brand content is very unique for me, right? And I haven't talked about this much. We're actually talking about it later. But let's look. So discoveries, I actually didn't have any discoveries with this one. So you can see like none of this is linear. It's not linear at all. You're reading something or you have an insight or a breakthrough and you're like, that would make a good process. So you go and you make the process, right? And then you can start to use that process for anything. If I want to teach people how to create better content, then map out your dream life or your vision and your anti-vision. And that's what all content leads to and away from. And then you can write out the books, brands, and content that have impacted your life the most. So there's only like 3 to 5 that really matter. Your tribe of mentors. Take note of the ideas that stuck with you from that information. So reread your favorite books and note down the big ideas. Outline those ideas as chapters. And now you have like unlimited content, right? You have a bunch of different subchapters to go off of. And you can start filling in a book with your newsletters, your content, and you can start iterating on those ideas. And then you can follow this process to develop the idea and gain awareness. You can go about life, connect the dots, reread the books, continue developing your ideas. It's just a step-by-step system for accomplishing something in a unique way that I have created because this is something that I did. I outlined a book. It gave me a ton of content ideas. And I'm like, there's something there. I should create a process around this and name it something that can be memorable and other people can benefit from. So let's look at this one. So this one is just another process by itself. This isn't very helpful, but you can create processes from really anything. Okay. So let's look at a different one. You know what? No, let's look at some of my articles, because these are all included in my articles and I reuse them all the time. So in intelligent imitation being one, that's both a theory and a concept, where I wrote an entire article on it, and it's in this course where this is my notion of steal like an artist, which we'll talk about later. But I want to go over one in specific, the passion process. Where is it? I don't even think I created a thing on this. Is it how to become the top 1%? So mastery, yeah. So I've changed it around a lot, but the passion process is included in all of this. So let me break this down a bit, because this all comes from all of the ideas that I've came up with. So we'll talk about this more later, but we're still choosing a viral, or not a viral, but a validated headline idea. So how to become the top 1% in any skill. This doesn't mention passion. This doesn't mention anything else that I've written in the experiments. This is from a YouTube video that I saw was popular and worked well. And now I can create an argument around that from my own findings and my own database of ideas, right? I bring an entirely new perspective to the table by doing this. So I write it out, and a lot of this, it came from reading about James Clear. It came from reading The Art of Impossible and learning what actually creates passion in the brain, and knowing Stephen Kotler's 5 intrinsic drivers. Again, you have to actually be consuming information and learning and trying to understand it and taking notes in order to start creating your own things. So originally it was called the 3-2-1 mastery framework, and then eventually I started calling it the passion process, and now I call it the mastery method, and I'm going to be creating another article on it, right? So these things evolve over time, and you just creating and refining your main big ideas here. So I called it a 3-2-1 mastery framework. Created a YouTube video about all this, but so the first step is 3 resources. So I created this off the top of my head. I'm like, okay, how can people become the top 1% in any skill well? How can they learn things well? And so you immerse yourself, you read, where is it? One book, one long form resource, and one short form resource to begin immersing yourself in the interest. The book should be a bestseller. And I was generating these ideas from The Art of Impossible, because he mentions buying a few books in the area. And I'm like, I've done this a different way. The way I learn about something is by reading the book, by listening to podcasts on it, and by following people on social media, and then soaking in the information and then starting to teach about it, right? So those are the 3 resources, 2 outlets. So passion testing. So you need to teach in order to learn. So you need to talk to people, you need to post online, you need to start developing your ideas, etc., etc. And then all for 1 month. So I got creative with this process that I was creating and called it the 3-2-1 mastery framework, or the passion process, or whatever it may be. It's variable. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. It's just about slapping a unique name on a process that will help people achieve a desired outcome. So over time, you can start doing these things, and it's really good. And just one that I wanted to bring up that may help explain this more, because it's all variable. We're all studying different things, but it all comes back to the same thing. So I had one, I've been talking about intensity in the mornings a lot, because that's what I do. Again, it's all experience and what you do and how you're improving your life. So I sit down and I do focus work every morning. Why? And it's like, question it. Why do you do that above a different time? And you start to write these things down, and they become tweets. And eventually I started to notice a pattern recently, 2 days ago, where I've written about waking up before the distractions do. I've wrote about bringing intensity and urgency to your mornings. I've talked about deep focused work. I've included it in a 3-part morning routine, and it's like I might as well create a concept or theory around this and a process. We'll talk about theories and concepts later and probably flesh this out then, but I just wanted to give you an example of like little notes that I took, and like how I started to name it, and I could create a process out of this, right? Because again, none of this is linear. It's like an idea pops into your head for a process. Okay, why would you not write that down when I only told you, oh, write down examples and stories and all? You write down everything that comes to your head that has potential utility that you can transform into something else. So morning momentum came to my head. I immediately wrote a tweet about it. Let's see. Where's morning momentum? Morning momentum. The incredible feeling that comes from deep focus, completing lever-moving tasks, and winning the day before most wake up. And this did okay. It didn't do as well as I thought, so maybe it may not be worth pursuing, but I can still dissect it, right? I can take this tweet, I can put it into, I can run an experiment, so I can include it in the topic, and I can start to break it down, right? And then I gain a deeper understanding of it. I can write an article on it. I can brainstorm a potential process. And then if I want to turn it into a process, then I can. And then I can reuse that process over and over again when I'm talking about getting work done, productivity, other things like that, and I can include it at the bottom of my articles. And the more I talk about that, the more people associate that process with me. So when they're talking online and they're like, oh, I love the concept of morning momentum by Dan. He like that's really what sticks in my head, and the why behind it, because you're helping people understand these things deeper by having a why behind it. And the only way you get a why behind it is through references, through experiencing it yourself, doing things your own way, and understanding it on a deeper level by actually experiencing it, right? The reason I'm so adamant on morning momentum is because it brings intensity to my mornings. It gives me a reason to wake up. That's a big problem for a lot of people. The benefit, I feel energized. I feel like I've done something good in my day. And then if I knock things out without distractions, I could create a focused work process. These things can build on top of each other. And after that, it's like I finish my work by 9 or 10 a.m. and then I have the rest of the day to do whatever I want. That's pretty enticing to people. I could create a product around that entire process if I made it thorough enough, right? So you see what I'm saying here? All of these things can, this is for any niche across anything. If you think you can't create these processes or other things, just look at what other people are doing. And are you comparing yourself to them and thinking that they're so much more experienced than you? And like that the process wasn't just made up out of thin air. All of this stuff is made up out of thin air, right? So that's it for this video, and it will continue to make sense as we dive into theories and how all of these things interconnect.